Perfect.
Okay, got one. Oh, please don't mess up.
So stressful.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I think I got everybody, invited everybody, so we just have to wait and see.
Perfect. Thanks for doing that. It's always so exhausting.
This is like it's a great idea if it would ever work, but it never works ever.
I know. This is honestly, like I said, like this is my first time actually being able to be in the hangout, like and actually do it correctly. Like this is my third one. This is my last one.
So what are you gonna do then? Oh,
so like the first one, someone had to like hold up their phone, and I like Skyped in on the phone. Like literally, like, I was on their phone, and then the last one that I did was when our teacher was supposed to record it, and
she forgot to press record.
Right, and so we just did like a hangout, and I don't know, we didn't do it right. I don't know.
So she messed it up too.
Right. And I've talked to her about like
just so you know we're recording. Go lay down. Go lay down. Oh, my dog.
No, I've tried to like talk to her to see that hopefully, I get full credit for it, but
yeah, you should be able to. Where is everybody?
I know.
Hello everyone. I'll resend again, I suppose.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, Maggie's usually right on top of it. I don't know.
Right.
All right.
There we go. Oh, and there's someone else now too. Aaliyah.
Okay. I got 2 invites. Oh. All right, so half of us are on one screen and half of us are on a different one because now I have Ann and Rachel on my phone.
Go to Ann and Rachel's.
Oh, I've got it on my phone.
That's because I started a new one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the right one.
So we're going to leave. Okay, so they're starting a new group, so they want everyone to leave and then come back, right?
Yes. I invited everybody again. I just
okay,
started
so Ann's
over.
going to invite everybody.
It should say Walden Two, take 2.
Like, oh. I might just do this.
Sorry, Diana, I just invited you again. Oops. Where'd Maggie go? All right. Aaliyah, is that you?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not going to invite you again. Is Rachel still here? Rachel?
Oh,
yeah, I am.
Okay. And then somebody with the name of Taylor Carr.
I have no idea.
Hi, Taylor Carr. She just messaged me saying that she's watching. So I don't know who that is.
Of course. I'm gonna quick run and grab my phone battery because since I logged onto my phone, I don't want it to die. So I will be right back, but I'm not leaving the call.
Okay. I think just need one more. I got everybody already, but I'm sending another invite in case somebody didn't get it for this take two. But we'll see.
Do you want to invite the professor again?
I did.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. The last time she messaged me and said that she was just gonna watch. She wasn't going to join.
Okay.
And we are live because I don't know how else to do it. Like I don't know how to go back and. We're already live, everybody. So heads up. All right. I think that's everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The only one we're missing is Jennifer, and I don't know. She did say she was in our group yesterday, but I haven't heard anything today. So.
Was she in the last one though? She was like in the last Google Hangout. Like
She was not in our practice one. No. No, she wasn't in our practice one on Thursday.
Has anyone
But
else heard whether she's? Oh, here she is, Jennifer.
It was 2 minutes ago, she said.
Here she
Nope,
is.
we got her.
Yay, we got her. All right, we're all here.
Yes.
All right, Maggie, go ahead.
All right. We're doing section 11, which is Walden 2, and it's chapters 1 through 27. I'm Maggie. If everyone else wants to go
I'm
ahead.
Anne.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm Jennifer. Diane.
Oh, boy.
I'm Emily. Do we have everyone then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lesson 7. Yep, we're good.
Okay. Cool. So, first, I think we're going to go ahead and talk about like our overall impressions of the book. I know there was one other Google Hangout that talked about chapters 1 through 8, but if we want to first start talking about like our overall impressions of the book Walden Two since then, so whoever wants to start, they can. I'll go ahead and give my brief impressions and then we'll move on. But initially, when I started reading the book, I wasn't a fan just of the whole idea. I thought it was like really regimented and I don't know if harsh is the right word, but like just very with like sleeping in separate rooms and just orderly and everything was like a certain way. I think now that I've read a lot further into it, it doesn't seem as strict. I still don't know that I'm a fan of it and that I could ever live that way, but seeing that other people are living that way and quote unquote happy, it seems a little more realistic to see that other people are living that way, but I don't, like I said, I don't know that it's realistic for our world and our society to ever live that way, but I think it was the last chapter, chapter 27 that we read, just hearing explain a lot more in detail about how things work and how they explained that it was like multiplying into other Waldens and what that looked like. It was a little more presentable in my mind. So.
And of course, I forgot my book upstairs. Originally, I really liked the book. I like how it started out. I thought it was a fun idea. And then the show Utopia came on at about the same time I started reading it, but the show is awful, so don't watch it if you haven't started. So off topic. I thought it was going to be kind of like the book, and it wasn't. It was fake actors. I don't know. So, and then I got to about, I think it was probably chapter 10 or so, and I got really bored. I didn't like it. It was very hard to read after that. And then at about chapter 15, I think it was when they were talking about where the children are, how they're like grown basically, because they're not even, I mean, they're all individual in their own little cubicles and kind of like chicken eggs. And that's where I started thinking it was a little bit more interesting and liking it again. So I've kind of developed a love-hate, kind of like the main idea. The main character has liked it and then didn't like it, and now he feels like he needs to defend it. So I've kind of gone back and forth a few times with this book so far.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
the
I
same
think
way.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I'm the same way about it. At the beginning, I was like, all right, but as the story goes on, I get more and more skeptical about it. And it's like, what's he hiding? Because I don't like that it's the one perspective of the one guy who started it. You don't, I know they start asking other people if they're happy and their perspective on it, but you don't really get a whole lot from the outside characters. It's mostly your tour guide, and he's like a salesperson, so of course it's always going to sound better than it might be. So I'm like, what? I wanted to be like, what's wrong with this? I don't quite believe it yet. So I couldn't do it myself.
And on top of him being the only one, he's the one that developed it. So he's not even just a sales guy, tour guide. He made this whole thing. And so, yeah, I see what you mean. Like, something's going on. Like, what makes me kind of, want to get to the end so that I can see if this guy is legit.
Yeah, I agree too. It seems like throughout the book, anytime that the main characters like branch out and want to speak to anybody else there, it's like all of a sudden he just kind of like pops up out of nowhere, and here he is to intervene with whatever kind of conversation they're having with someone else. So it's like he's almost like Big Brother in a way, and he kind of somehow being able to know whenever they might be on the brink of getting some insight that may not be favorable or may not be what he wants them to know. So I've kind of thought of that to be a little suspicious too. I think through reading the book, like originally I thought, okay, this will be interesting, because a lot of times what's on the syllabus isn't exactly the most entertaining to read. And then it turned out to be like an okay read, and then getting up to chapter 27, it seems like now it's kind of like at a standstill again, where maybe the book. It seems like so far what I'm kind of getting out of the whole big picture is sort of this is what happens whenever you take the ABA principles, which is kind of what they're implementing here. I mean, everybody's kind of on a behavior plane, it seems like. Whenever you have the one cookie cutter type of thing that you're implementing for a huge group of people, in this case, an entire community, and then you can kind of see how it's doing bad, even though everyone that's going along with it may think that it might be doing okay. They don't really know yet. And that's just kind of what I'm reading into it, beyond the actual text that's there in the book. So that might be a little much, but I'm trying to kind of get the big picture while I'm reading this, because it's kind of hard for me to understand why we're reading this for this class. So I'm trying to kind of.
Well, my supervisor, she's also my mentor for all my hours, and so I'm lucky in that part. But she asked me if I was reading. There was another book, or Walden Two. So apparently, it's the book to read for ethics. But the way you had just put that kind of reminded me of like the Stepford Wives, where they're just very robotic and they're very trained, and this is the way they're going to do it, and they don't know any better. And then I think about our kids and how we do our training the same way, and they answer things very rote. And just because it's a behavior plan doesn't necessarily mean that it's good for the whole. It's supposed to be individualized, and I think maybe that's like what they're trying to get at is you can't use one behavior plan for everyone. You have to look at the individual themselves, and I think that's the whole. And so I think that you got it when you were like, "What's the point of this book?"
I don't mean to be so negative or pessimistic, but I like to kind of have an idea of kind of what the big picture is. So I'm kind of looking at it from that perspective. That kind of helped me maybe get through the not so entertaining parts of the text. So
yeah, where I took a week off, I was like, I can't do this right now. I had to catch up.
I think when I was reading the book, a lot of what I initially liked about it was the inclusion of the ABA principles and like the discussion of how they were trying to find like the most functional way and the easiest way to go about things where it would be the least amount of work time and whatnot. I found it really intriguing, and I feel like the chapters that seem to drag are the chapters that seem to focus more on the philosophy of it and not the ABA end of it. And I think like as I'm reading it, I still like the idea of it a little bit just because it intrigues me in the sense of how they look at behavior and they make their choices based on the behavior end of things compared to maybe a political standpoint or the philosophy standpoint. I'm beginning to dislike the character that always brings up the philosophy. I forget what his name is now.
Castle.
Yes, Castle. But then I think what struck me the most is when I think it was like chapter 26 or something where he talked to that old woman sitting in the chair, and she was saying how like she likes to give him a hard time and like kind of mess with the system a little bit, and that still kind of struck me as like, okay, there's a little bit of individuality still in this, even though it's still a global plans and routines for everybody.
See, I'm not convinced of the individuality part. Because I'm really happy that Emily brought up the whole like behavior plan, because in my head I didn't think of it as a behavior plan. I thought of it as like everyone's just being manipulated. It's not like are they making their choices or are the circumstances set up in a way that guide them to specific choices. So how much like free will is still left in this? Or is it just here's how it's organized and based on what I do, I'm going to lead you to the answer I want you to pick.
But that is a behavior plan.
I know, but
manipulate the antecedents. That's a behavior plan when you're writing behavior plans, and you have to set up your setting events and your antecedents and prevent that behavior from occurring. And that's what he's done. He's controlling everyone, thousands of people.
Right. And where I have the problem with is how it's everybody has to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And why haven't they really talked about what happens if someone wants to leave?
Yeah, like everyone wants to stay.
Right. Because if someone wanted to leave, could they really leave?
I don't know. If there was a perfect world where you really didn't ever get angry or sad or frustrated or jealous, I would love to live in that world because that part of life sucks.
And there's an element of this book that almost kind of reminds me of The Giver. I don't know if you all have read that book.
Long time.
It's been a while, and I just recently reread it for the movie that just came out. Off topic, but I guess this is kind of like a different perspective of that same book as far as everything seems to be so regulated and so, like zero emotion, and let's all go by, what this higher power that's still a human tells us to do, and that's the right thing to do. I know that was just something that's kind of been like in the back of my head the whole time I've been reading this, is how parallel it seems to be. But
I feel like the ethical questions in this book depend on if you were born into the society or if you choose to go into the society. Because like the Steve and Mary, I think it was, like having gained all the information and then choose to enter it, it'd be interesting to like look at their perspective versus someone that's born there and doesn't have the choice.
It doesn't know anything different.
Yeah.
The part that I kind of like about this book though is like they basically have a mini experiment with, like a couple thousands of people or however big, this utopian society is, which is kind of interesting because, I mean, I don't know, I guess that like they're trying to figure out what is wrong with, our current society and how to prevent those things from happening with a behavior plan. So, I mean, in general, I guess like a lot of people can volunteer for, to be in an experiment in like actual life. And so some do, but then like you guys said, like some are born into this society and they don't have a decision. But I also, the part of the book where they started talking about Steve and Mary and how they are deciding to stay, it kind of like intrigues me because it felt like they just were talking about how I don't know, their life was like so hard in the regular society and how this is going to be like picture perfect and how they're going to be so happy and have kids and not have to work or like worry about money but just work. And when they like stress that view of it, I mean, it sounds really nice, but then when you think about like everything else, it throws you off of how much is being manipulated.
I think a lot of it has to do with what kind of background you're coming from too. Like your views on it may change depending on where you're from and what kind of situation you're living in too. Kind of like you're saying.
Yeah, the point that Rachel brought up as far as the difference between the people that are born into the utopian society versus the folks that are, I guess, implants into the utopian society, I guess that could kind of be translated into, I guess how people accept their own participation in ABA, perhaps. There's the group of folks who maybe or perhaps are born with autism, and so they start with ABA as young as first steps. I mean, pretty much their whole life, they know that someone's there and is going to be monitoring their behavior versus maybe someone who is an implant to ABA therapy, perhaps maybe experiencing a brain injury in their 20s after a car accident. And so now they're receiving behavior supports to help them work through those deficits. And so maybe how someone would, I guess, work with this situation of like a utopian sort of environment implemented on them compared to someone who has never had to think about this up until their mid-20s, for example, and here they are, expected to adhere with this, and I don't know, maybe that's a way to kind of translate that into, the book versus real life. Maybe.
Do you think he wrote the book knowing, like, do you think it, that's a great point. I wonder if that was intentional. Because it was written 50 years ago. It's an old book, isn't it?
In the 70s.
Okay, so 40 years ago. So autism wasn't around. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I totally. I'm just trying to make sense of why we're.
No, I mean, again,
I'm trying to pull something out of this.
I wonder how much, like, what was his intent? I don't know.
Well, it makes me question too, like the choices I make in the day-to-day, like having the knowledge in ABA that I have, what behavior plans do I set up for myself or my loved ones? Like when I got married, we definitely, like I reinforced more eating of vegetables and independent cleaning of the house, you know what I mean, more than I did before. So it's just even like looking at it in that sense of like, is this somebody who just said, well, let's see how far I can take it?
Yeah. My boss would tell me, everything is a stimulus. How do you want it to control you? It's going to control you. you if you let it make you act.
And I wonder in like the different like the Walden 2, Walden 3, Walden 4, like if they have like maybe different behavior plans. Like for each one, they kind of like shape, I don't know, the members of like those societies in like a different way. Because obviously it said when Steve and Mary wanted to join, they had to be accepted to join. So I don't necessarily know like the criteria, or they only take a certain person that they think is going to be successful in like that particular society.
Which I think is an interesting point, because like would any of the kids that we work with be allowed into the society?
Right.
Or would they not meet the criteria?
Mm-hmm. Because they may not. I don't know.
That's interesting that you brought that up, because I had thoughts that you, Emily, you had said something about how you could compare it to someone who like had a brain injury and maybe you know, this isn't something that they've always dealt with, and so they're walking into Walden Two versus we're born into Walden Two. And so 2 points that I'm thinking of is, one, we have someone in our center who she led a normal life until she had a brain injury at age 13, and you can tell that she is fully functioning other than this brain injury that like inhibits her from like compulsively putting things in her mouth and compulsively touching things, and how hard it is for her to want so bad to do things the quote unquote correct way. But and she knows what ABA is. She gets what we're doing. She understands the behavior plan. She understands watching all of the therapists implement all these things, and then she sometimes like makes this like yelling upset noise, like she gets so frustrated with herself, and just like me talking about it right now like rises up in me, you know what I mean, like you just get this like passion inside of you, like would she be someone in there that like would thrive in that environment, or would someone like Frasier be like, nope, you can't be here because you aren't going to be someone who you know meets those guidelines? And would she be someone, what you're saying is like, would do well in it even if he was accepting of her being in there? So I don't know, that was one point I thought of. And then the other thing I thought of, one of you guys brought up, I don't remember now, was that like um thinking of it, you know, because ABA is such a newer field relatively compared to other fields in our area, um, I know it's making a lot of us think of like, okay, what is the point of reading this book, and how can we apply it to um, what we're studying? And I almost just now when we're having this hangout thinking, okay, you know, there is a lot of conformity and rigidity in Walden Two, and maybe that's helping us realize, like, from an outsider's perspective, the stereotypes that other people see ABA as, and so how we can help others break that stereotype and even perform ABA differently than and outside the boundaries of what we typically see it as. Like instead of like sitting at a desk or you know, just be a lot more intentional about like doing natural environment stuff or having a lot more fun with the kids. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I'm just trying to think of like what the book is doing for our minds as far as like if we're being if it's such this like rigid box that it's being put in, helping us think outside of the box to like break that stereotype of what some people have for ABA. So
Yeah, I guess since we've established how old this book actually is, and I just didn't think to look at that part of this until then. And then what you also said too, as far as, you know, the intentions of the book and the rigidity that's really kind of embraced with this book, it really kind of makes me think maybe this whole thing is just like intentional irony that's written. so almost kind of making fun of the stereotypes of ABA, to where it, almost just kind of pushing it to a point that it's almost just absurd of, I guess, how, for lack of better words, awful, ABA could be if completely misused and not individualized.
Maybe it's a warning to, because it was such, that's the time when ABA was really starting. So maybe this was written as a, be careful. This is a warning. You have a lot of control over the people you work with, to make sure that you are choosing your desires very carefully, because these are people's lives, and the way you interact with them, whether you want to or not, is going to create and make them do certain things.
I take it back. I just looked at the copyright date again, and it was recopyrighted in 76, but the original was in 48, so it's even older than what I...
Yeah, I thought it was like 50s, but again, my book is upstairs, and I don't really...
Do you guys see yourself living there? Like, would you guys ever want to live there?
I think I would.
I would too.
No way, absolutely not.
I don't think so, but something that I found really interesting is their relationships with each other. Just like the relationships between, how they get married and how they raise their kids and how the kids have relationships with the whole community. Like the whole aspect of personal relationships is what really kind of stuck with me.
I'm not very cool on the way the babies and children are taken care of. Maybe that's just because I'm a newer mom. I wouldn't want anybody to have my baby or have him be isolated like that. But the way they put it is everyone loves everyone equally. If that can prevent him from experiencing anger and sadness, any of those negative emotions, then I think I might sacrifice that, because I just, that part of life is just not fair.
But then it's like, how people say, obviously you have to experience the bad to appreciate the good. So if you don't have the bad times, then how do they really, are genuinely grateful for, like, not experiencing something that you've never experienced? Like you said, like, he wouldn't experience sadness.
And even what's kind of the cornerstone of some interventions and some treatment designs, experiencing the aversive can sometimes be reinforcing to desired behavior. So, I don't know. I think, something that I guess is sort of like a saying in my family is, if you run across somebody obviously you don't like, later on you're like, oh, they're such an idiot, but without those people there wouldn't be the great smart people that everybody loves. So, where does it balance out?
I know that I think I could handle living in a place like this, and since we're talking about the different emotions and stuff and how they don't waste their time with the negative ones, from my perspective of reading it, I feel like they're settling more on like a content feeling, and none of them seem truly happy. Like, it's not happiness, it's just we're content. I know I'm taken care of. I do some work. That's not necessarily what I want to do, but I do minimal work, and I just go about my day, and I have these clubs I can join to keep me entertained. But it's especially one of the women he talks to, the Fraser character talks to in one of the chapters, and she goes on about like the Pinochle Club or all the different clubs she can be in. It's like, but does she really love doing that? Is she really happy, or is it just I'm content and thankful for the opportunity I'm given. So that's where I kind of get a little dissuade from joining the life.
I kind of agree with you, and it also makes me wonder if it really is possible with human nature to not experience those emotions. In my opinion, I'm not sure if it's completely possible to not have, anger or feel sadness just sometimes, just because it's in human nature for us to feel those types of things.
I think that's where I was at, but I mean, I'm not saying that any of it like isn't possible, but I think it would be a lot harder to. I guess I almost see them like shoving down negative emotions, but that was what was in my head, was like just acting like everything was okay and almost numbing down anything that wasn't good just to put on this facade. But I don't know. And I think, like Rachel said, there's like difficult things that we experience in life, but I think that makes us appreciate stuff a lot more, and it makes us stronger people for what we do go through. But obviously, if there was a possible way for all that to happen, then yes. But I guess in my mind, realistically, I don't ever see it happening, which is why I don't think I would want to live there. But
Yeah, no, realistically, no, it won't. But it's like a nice dream.
yeah,
And really, if they are enjoying, they might not be happy, but if they're just doing these activities and it's taking some time, it's more than I can ever do, because all my day consists of is waking up exhausted, going to work exhausted, coming home exhausted, doing homework. I can't tell you when the last time I did something that I just enjoyed myself, all by myself, and just did it. So I would go just for that, even if it was for a week.
on vacation.
Yes. For my birthday, I asked my mom. My mom asked me what I wanted, and all I want is a hotel room for myself, by myself, for one night. Nobody else. I just want to be by myself. So for 1 week, I'll go to Walden Two and enjoy working for 4 hours.
Let us know how it is.
If I come back.
Yes, that is.
Yeah, I think it's something I could go see and observe and maybe like be there for a week, but not a long-term stay there kind of thing for me.
I think one of the things I think that sounds so interesting about it is having that additional time to almost explore other interests. Like hearing some of the things that they're doing, I'm like, wow, I never would have had time to even know if I wanted to do that, because society nowadays is so go, 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 and like how efficient and how effective can you be in this in a day? Whereas these guys are saying, do what you want to do to work for a few hours and then explore. And that just seems so intriguing to me.
My only thing with that is like I love traveling, and so like you said, like you can explore, but like to what extent? Like you can explore like hobbies and interests and stuff like that, but like exploring to me is like, I don't know, going places and meeting people too. And so like you can definitely explore, but it's also like limited. Like
Yeah, I agree with you, Rachel. I mean, I love to travel and get out and see things and, meet people and try different things, seeing what living somewhere else is like. And then if you know that you're stuck in this little community, that's not going to happen. And, I don't know. And even then, like exploring, all these different things that they allow people that live in utopia to do, then even then you're still confined to what is there. There's not the opportunity to go outside of that to figure out more what they offer.
think I'd read a lot of books. I
Some
had that.
of us did have questions about, Rachel, I think you had a question about how they recruit individuals to join the utopian society and whether they should turn down individuals. What do you guys think about how they initially recruited? Because I know that like they said they kind of like divided people out in, I don't know what chapter it was. Like once they had enough people, they would split and divide. But like, um, we were going to talk a little bit about how they recruited people initially.
Whose question was that?
That was Rachel's, and what wouldn't seem like a good fit.
If they want to keep a perfect environment, this is being mean to myself, but if I were them, I wouldn't let me stay. If they want to keep everyone happy, and because that's what I would like to, but I think I'm tainted. I think I would not be good for their society. I think I would come with a lot of baggage.
That's sad. I think one thing that kind of struck me in how they would have had to recruit is I think they would have had to start with really young people that they would get a good number of years out of, because I don't know how they're going to deal with elderly when they have more than just a few, and it doesn't sound like right now they have very many.
I agree with what Anne said as far as, feeling like just past experiences, things that we've experienced that the people who have always lived there haven't. I mean, it would kind of, I guess, taint what it is they're trying to build there. I mean, more than likely, those people have never had to experience a traffic jam or running late in the day or just like nothing short of just being absolutely ticked off. And we have that internal angst within us from those previous experiences, so it definitely can't be anything good to take with us there.
My thing is, like, if they do have criteria for like recruiting people, like, I don't know, how did they decide that? And I guess that kind of links obviously as like, being like ABA therapist, like what we decide is important to implement with like kids or, uh, any of our clients on a daily basis. But like, I don't understand like his criteria to be able to be accepted. And even if, someone gets the interview and they act all happy, like that could be a facade and they could be fake. And I don't know, a random person could go in and try to ruin the whole society and like take over. I
Can you take them out?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, how many times have you interviewed someone for a job and they can interview really well?
Mm-hmm.
And a month later you realize, you're not as good as you made yourself seem.
Right.
And you need to let them go. I don't remember hearing them say they kick anyone out.
Or even if like you didn't do it on purpose, but let's say you had bipolar disorder. Like I feel like that would just totally throw a wrench into everything.
I remember them saying that like, it could have been Fraser, but he said something along the lines of like Steve and Mary would take like no time to adjust or adapt, and they would blend in quickly. But it's along the lines of like what you guys said is like it seems like they would have to take people really young in order to get the most effective and useful people. But then at the same time, like if they want to be able to recruit people at different ages, if that would also be their goal. and bring people in that are older, like we're all gonna be quote unquote like defective or imperfect or immoral. You know what I mean? Like they're never gonna. All of us, wouldn't be able to be in there if that's what is gonna disqualify us. It's not. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, I'm glad to know I'm not the only one that won't be allowed in. This is not even about the book, but does anybody know how you can tell how many minutes you've been
You have
airing?
20.
What?
You have 20.
20 minutes left? That's what I thought. Okay. Just making sure. Okay, and I just have a quick on my question. One of my questions that I had, the schools, they seem very Montessori-like, and I'm pretty sure that's when the Montessori schools started, from what I can remember from my education classes a long time ago. But that's the child teaches themselves, basically. They pick what they're interested in and their passions are, and then the teacher is there to kind of guide them and expand their knowledge, but it's the child that picks what they want to learn. So does anybody else have, I don't have really any experience with Montessori schools. My son's in a daycare that when he's 3, I'll have the option of just a typical daycare or preschool class or Montessori, which I probably will. I'm thinking of trying the Montessori, but I don't know if anybody has experience and they agree with me that that's what their schools are like.
I went to a Montessori when I was younger, before like kindergarten, or I think it like replaced preschool or whatever. And basically we kind of did like circle time, and I remember learning how to like wring out a rag and kind of like very like life, I don't know, kind of like different like little things to like be as independent as possible. Um, so I mean, I had really like no complaints with it.
You are successful, so didn't mess you up too bad.
Right.
My old boss went all through grade school, and I don't know personally how it went, but I know she always talked highly of it, that she enjoyed it, and she got her BCBA. So it can be good. I think it probably matters on the personality of the person, though, too. She was pretty driven to want to learn new things, so.
Which is, and not everyone that lives in Walden Two is going to have that innate desire to learn and do things. So I'm wondering if their schooling is really going to be effective, since this is the first generation of kids going through that school program. I wonder how effective it will be in the long run.
I think it's an interesting idea, but I think that you're right. It really depends on how much motivation a child has to learn. And, obviously if they're learning the things that they're interested in, they're going to have more motivation because that's what they're interested in. But there's also going to be those who don't really know what they want to do, because obviously no one knows what they want to do when they're like really young anyway, or even when they start college, So I feel like a lot of them, unless they have specific guidance of like someone to recommend certain things for them, which the teachers obviously would be able to do, but I just feel like there's a lack of motivation unless that they can foster that motivation before starting the school.
Well, and interestingly, I wonder, like with the way Walden Two set up, they almost wouldn't have to pick a field to go into. Like they wouldn't have to say, I want to go into school to be a psychologist or to be a doctor or a dentist. They have that choice, but they could just do the labor for the rest of their lives some of those different activities too.
What do you guys think about, like, Emily, I think this is your question, but like I like this idea of topic. It's like, what do you think about Walden 2 is realistic that we could use in real life, if anything?
I feel like, you know how like you guys kind of mentioned how they should maybe start recruiting younger kids if they want to keep the utopian society alive. Um, my thing is like I feel like our generation, like kids are so like independent and like crazy and just want to like go off and do like their own thing that it'd be hard to kind of like tie them down, if you will, like to actually stay in a small community like that.
Yeah, I think I might get bored. Like, I wonder, I don't know how, like, the size of your guys' schools, but, like, my high school had almost 500 people in it. So I constantly, like, every year met new people and got to make new friendships. And I think that would be strange for me, at least, to, like, try to consider being in a community where I knew everybody and there wasn't the really too much growth in the new people coming in or anything like that.
I guess my answer would be I can't think besides the schools. I can't really like pick something out of there that would work, that would make it that is a real life. I don't see any of it besides the school that is real life. Maybe, I mean, when older people in their 70s and 80s, you ask them, they've been married for 50 years. What's the secret to a happy marriage? And they laugh and say separate bedrooms. So maybe that's part of it. Separate bedrooms.
I noticed while reading this that I guess the occupations and the work that's done, it's kind of on a different scale of what's valued versus maybe what we value in our society. Obviously, doctors, dentists, lawyers, things of that nature. Generally, the people that make more money generally indicates that they're more valued or their occupation is more valued. And then I noticed in Walden Two, a lot of, not a lot, but several of the occupations and the jobs that were to be done, they received more units or credits for a smaller amount of time, not necessarily because it is, something that would be valued more in our society, but because it was more helpful to the people that live there. And now that I said that, I can't think of anything in particular, but I just remember noticing that like as a theme while I was reading, that it almost kind of seemed a little backwards. So maybe to reevaluate how things, I guess how people are valued and how their occupations are valued in our society, that might maybe be something that would be worth looking into, or applying to us. I don't think it would ever really happen, but I think that that could definitely change things. I think it could be a realistic thing if the right people thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, I can see how that would be cool. But I just think of like our society, and they talk about it in the book too, but it's like the financial strain. The people who are making the big money aren't going to want to sacrifice the big money so someone with a better job, like it's the reason why CEOs of companies make more money than teachers, because they're going to keep their money and the teachers are going to keep doing what they're doing because they love it. And if you try to give teachers more money and take money from the people who already have it, it's just not going to fly at all. It'd be cool if we could make those changes, but I can't see it happening.
I think another thing that I don't know that it's realistic that would ever happen, but that would be nice. Similar to what Emily was saying, is that like for us to put less emphasis on work and more emphasis on like being able to I don't know, maybe not necessarily like hobbies per se, but like I mean, yeah, some people's hobbies are their passions, but like pursuing um, being able to like spend more time with their family. And I just feel like we're such an independent and work driven culture now, even more than we were 20 years ago, that if it was even like a smidgen less than where we are now, that um, if it maybe not 4 hours, but even just like the some less portion of work than we are now, and more emphasis on just being able to pursue other things, that would be ideal. But again, maybe not realistic.
I feel like since the value of our dollar has become nothing anymore, it doesn't even matter how hard and how much we work. We never seem to get anywhere. And I think that's what puts a strain on our society a lot, is the value of the money that we need to survive that doesn't seem to make a difference for people like us that are just working class. So that's the part I would like to see in our world, is maybe less emphasis on the money. I got very distracted because my son walked in the room. Sorry.
Yeah, one part that I really like thought about from Walden Two, it said like they don't really use achievement and recognition like at all with their members. They thought it was, I think I have a quote, it said, if recognition points up the unexceptional achievements of others, it's wrong. So I don't know, I just thought it was, I don't know, I feel like achievement and recognition is needed for people to feel appreciated. And they said the way that others feel appreciated is doing stuff for each other. So like, I'll help you do this if you do this for me. And I just didn't see that being enough like praise to keep you motivated and like doing things.
For my the other class that I'm taking, the last article, I had to do an article review, and it was about being humble and how that's what we should value our society on, rather than money, being humble. But if you say you're humble, then you're not really humble. And so I think maybe Walden Two has a point there, is everyone is just humble. You can't do it alone. Everyone needs each other, and there's no money because what's the point? It's not going to get you anywhere without somebody else anyway.
I thought it was interesting in that section how they also mentioned too, like they've gotten rid of things that showed if someone was like on top. So all the sports and things where they were that you have to defeat somebody else, but then kept things like the high jump and things where it was like you beat your own score. I feel like our society is so driven by, I mean, even now, like fantasy football, like what receiver is going to catch and run the most yards, and it's all driven by who's the best and not just having fun with it or beating your own score. It's always beating somebody else's.
That's something I think I'd have a hard time with, because I'm a very competitive person as far as, playing sports and stuff goes. I feel like that might be one of the things I would struggle with there. And I think I'd be happy if I could play my sports, but it still didn't matter if someone won or lost, like you're just playing for fun. But I would really struggle if there was no sports, or, I would be too competitive for Walden Two.
I'm pretty used to. I like to play sports, but I am pretty used to not winning. So I got that part. I won't be so competitive for that. Well, trying to think. How many more? I couldn't figure out which questions
I'm trying to look right now.
we have. What 8 minutes or so?
Yeah.
Um,
Does anyone have any questions off the top of their heads that they know they wanted to bring up?
Well, one that just kind of dawned on me, and we kind of talked about this a little bit, but what parts of the book do you guys think would be different if it was written today? Like, do you think people would buy it? Or even like if they were to make a movie out of it, like what would the movie today of Walden 2 look like?
well, and like I said, there's that show Utopia, and I was hoping it was gonna be similar to the book, because I wanted to see it. I wanted to see it how it would look in somebody else's eyes, because it's still part of the state. They still have to follow the state laws. So how do they? Is there a big wall? Like I want to know how it's set up. Um, but the show Utopia, I think I only saw like an episode or so because it was horribly written and fake actors. So I think though they were on an island, but so it was written for this. Too bad it was a bad writer, but I don't know because we have so much technology that it would be very different for somebody to have to give up their phones or their TV or I mean they were talking about sports when he wrote this, but that was in the 40s. Like how competitive were their sports back then? Not like they are today where they're making millions of dollars for one game. So that would be a whole nother book, I think.
I think you could probably write a whole nother book just about the differences in like technology and like getting people there, honestly.
I think you
I
could
just while I was reading this, like how the different jobs and how it seemed like gender roles were definitely a major part of this, and it was pretty stereotypical. So I wonder if women, if this were written today, if women would be doing.
Is there?
I think so.
All right, Emily, did you freeze? Oh, there you are. Okay.
We lost you. You said I wonder if it would be different if women would.
Oh, sorry, my connection messed up. I think that it would be interesting to see if it were rewritten and if gender roles were adhered to the same way that they were in the book.
Yeah.
That was written 50 years ago. It seemed like in the book a lot of things that women are supposed to do. It seems like that women were the ones doing the cooking, things like that, and it seemed like the men were most often assigned to jobs that I guess were more appropriate for men. And so I think it would be interesting to see how that played out um, if it were rewritten or maybe turned into a movie or something like that.
That was actually one of my questions because I think in the first Google Hangout for Walden too, they were questioning like the gender roles too. And then like one of the chapters that we've read, it did say though that men and women like work at a clothing shop and stuff. So like little things to me I felt like were kind of divided, like it wasn't as equal as today's society, but it did seem that like some of the places were men and women jobs.
Yeah, I remember reading that part about it saying that things were more equal, but then as they brought in characters, like there were always like the women always did things that were I guess more acceptable for women to do. I guess they didn't actually bring in any characters into dialogue that actually defended that actually supported that. I guess that's why it's easy to I guess kind of jump on that and think well, that's not right.
I'll tell you what, if I could stay home and be a housewife and do behavior stuff just for fun, because I love it, but not because I had to. So if I could make my own hours, and hopefully that will be the case when I pass the board test, then I would. I would love to just be able to stay home and have a nice, perfect, clean house with my child and have a warm, nice, fresh cooked dinner and actually eat dinner warm off the stove, not like I do now, and be able to still help people, but on my time. I would do it. I would be a housewife, for sure. And that's probably why I would fit into Walden Two, because that's my dream.
Yeah, I'm definitely, not trying to bash whatever stereotype someone may enjoy. That is definitely not what I'm trying to do. There are definitely lots of, feminine, girly things that I enjoy too. I just,
No,
just for the
there's
sake
no
of argument, I guess.
I am all for being a 50s housewife. I'm okay with that.
I could see it being a really popular movie. I think that people would go for it big time. I think it would even probably without even creating a new book, it would probably revive this book into people wanting to read it before this movie came out for the mere fact of understand how people like to read books when movies come out. I don't it would be interesting to see if this book was remade in today, but I think it would be without it being rewritten, I think it would be a hit today.
Imagine Angelina Jolie in the movie. That would be. I wonder who they would pick as one of the main women in the book.
Brad Pitt plays Frasier.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Jack Nicholson might make a better Frasier.
Oh,
that's true.
I think we should just make a casting call for.
We all get to play a role.
Yeah.
If they came out with the movie, do you guys think it would hurt or help ABA?
Hurt.
I don't know because I didn't finish the book.
That's true. Good point.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess it depends. It can't hurt because he was ABA, and I think he was trying to teach people about ABA and the control it has. So I think my assumption is it would help it because it's only grown since the book was written anyway, and they use it in classes. So if it was going to hurt ABA, they probably wouldn't use it.
All right, I think we're good to go.
All right.
Perfect.
Yay! Third one done.
And if you have the link.
How do I get that?
Well, when you hit end or call or whatever, you should be able to get it.
The YouTube, right? On the left side? Probably.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
1 month left, guys.
Yay.
We're almost done.
Thank you.
Good luck,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.